Carson Wentz, we got Nick Foles. The Eagles have made their choice, but is it the right one?
Still the cowboy, Mr. McLean. You Americans are all alike. But this time, John Wayne doesn't walk into the sunset with Grace Kelly.
Scary Cooper, asshole.
Oh, demon! Oh, shit! Oh, shit! That was crazy!
Happy trails, Hans.
Dallas still stinks.
You're my new King Ding back here. So, today is the day I'm going to start the Nick Foles Carson Wentz debate. Now, I was going to wait later on into the week to do this, but I decided to do it now after the Eagles press conference with Doug Pederson and Howie Roseman earlier today. I thought, hey, we might as well get it on. We might as well do it now because it's probably going to go on for some time. But the first thing I got to say, I love Nick Foles. And I want to thank Nick Foles for everything he did for the Philadelphia Eagles. Winning their first title, way he played in Super Bowl, it was unbelievable. And then to see what he did this year, to get us as far as we did, to give us a shot to beat the Saints, you got to love Nick Foles. Nick Foles can play in this league. He can be a franchise quarterback somewhere, and there's no doubt about it. Now, the Eagles, they came out today, and one of the first questions asked in the press conference was, is Carson Wentz the starting quarterback next year? Without hesitation, without a moment of silence, they said yes. Carson Wentz is the quarterback going forward. He is the quarterback. He is the guy, and that's the way it's going to be. Now, this fan base is split. It is split right down the middle. It definitely is. And I don't think either side is really wrong. I think both sides make really, really good points. I mean, when you look at Nick Foles, the one thing Nick Foles has over Carson Wentz, he has pretty much over every other quarterback in the league except for maybe 2 or 3, maybe not even that. But Nick Foles is clutch. If you need one last drive to win a game in the fourth quarter and you have 1 minute and 50 seconds left, do I want Carson Wentz or Nick Foles? I trust Nick Foles more. I trust him more. No doubt about it. I trust him more. I really do. And, you know, that's something Nick has. He just has that. And it's something that I think is very appealing to people. And when you look at Nick Foles and you look at what he did and the emotional attachment to Nick Foles, it's easy for me and for me to see how people want Nick Foles to be the starting quarterback for this team going forward. One mistake I think people do make, though, is they assume that because Nick Foles is clutch, that Carson Wentz therefore must not be. They often refer to Carson Wentz's rookie year and the games that they lost close, that he didn't make comebacks or do certain things. And I think that it's unfair. I think that's unfair because I don't put a lot of stock into what a guy does his rookie year. When I look at a guy's rookie year, I kind of see that as a starting point from where he's at, and then he's got to build upon that. I often look at what they do in the second year, what they do in the third year, and on and on and on, okay? The second year Carson played, they blew everybody out. He was sitting in the fourth quarter at times. There was really not many opportunities for Carson to be in, having to have a game-winning drive. You know what I mean? So we can't hold it against Carson that he was destroying everybody, that the North Dakota assassin was crushing everybody, okay? Because that's what was happening. Now, he did have a last-minute drive to beat the Giants that year. And I often look at that Rams game. Coming off the loss to Seattle, the Eagles go and they play the Los Angeles Rams. They need to win. The Rams are right on their neck with Minnesota, and they need to win this game to clinch the division. Now, early in that game, if you remember that Rams game, the Rams were just moving the ball on our defense, just going right down the field and scoring. And every time Carson just kept matching him. And he carried that team, in my opinion, in that Rams game, on his back before he tore his ACL and then threw a touchdown on a torn ACL to give us the lead in the fourth quarter. That, you know, hey, it was one of the most unbelievable performances I think I've seen from a lot of quarterbacks, and I think Carson doesn't get enough credit for that. Now, he comes back from an ACL injury this year. We all think about that Carolina game. The Carolina game, that last-minute drive, bad. That was bad. No question about it. That was bad, and that was on Carson. He got a lot of flack for the Tennessee game, which I think was unfair because of two reasons. One, if you look at that game, the Eagles had the lead in overtime. He went down and gave them the lead. It was a field goal, but he gave them the lead. And then if you watch, there was a play before that, and he hit Alshon in the middle of the end, at the sideline. It went right through Alshon's hands. And Carson gets blamed for that loss, and that's not fair. My point being is that Carson is the guy. The Eagles have pretty much said he's the guy. And we can't assume because Nick does something good that Carson can't. We really don't know. We really don't know how clutch Carson is or isn't because we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it yet. The biggest issue with Carson Wentz, the biggest problem, the biggest concern, something I'm concerned about myself, is his injury history. I'm worried about him being hurt and being injured and being durable going forward. I am. That is a legitimate concern that people should have. They should have. But just because you have injuries early on in your career, it doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. Sometimes guys have it, they get it out of the way, and they don't have to deal with it anymore. I think of Drew Brees. When Drew Brees was with San Diego, he got hurt quite often. He hurt his shoulder. I think they thought that he didn't have anything left. If you would have told me when he first signed with the New Orleans Saints, back when he did, I forget what year that was, but if you would have told me that in 2018 that he was still playing football, no chance I would have believed it. I didn't think he could stay healthy. Okay, that was kind of the rap early in his career, but he did. So sometimes guys get over it. Okay, sometimes guys get over it. Now, this is what the Eagles are going to do. Half the fan base isn't going to like it. Half the fan base is going to like it. I love both guys. I look at Nick Foles as a legend. A legend. He deserves that statue. He deserves to be in the Ring of Honor. He deserves all those kind of things. But when you look at the future of this team, you have a 26-year-old quarterback with unbelievable skill set, right? I think everybody would say his skill set, his talent is better than Nick Foles. Nick Foles, he's more clutch. He's more of a big game quarterback. Obviously, at this point in the career, you can say that. But Carson, his ceiling is higher. And the Eagles have to make a decision with him. If, let's say, the Eagles traded Carson Wentz. Let's say they traded him for 3 first-round picks. So they go ahead, they trade Carson Wentz for 3 first-round picks. Let's say, I don't know what team, let's just throw any team out. Let's say they trade him to Denver. They trade him to Denver for 3 first-round picks. Or they trade him to Jacksonville for 3 first-round picks, okay? You get the first pick this year, which is, I forget what number they're picking, but it's pretty high. But Carson goes to Jacksonville. He stays healthy. All of a sudden, those other picks that you're receiving are going to be worth nothing. Because if Carson's healthy, the Jacksonville Jaguars are contending for the playoffs. They're in the playoffs, meaning you're not getting 2 or 3 top 10 picks. You are getting nothing because he is that good. Okay, so what this really comes down to is, do the Eagles believe in Carson Wentz? Do they believe that he could get past this health thing? Because if they believe he can get past these injuries, you got to stick with him. Because if he went to another team like Jacksonville, wins 2-3 Super Bowls, doesn't get hurt anymore like Drew Brees went from San Diego to New Orleans, it would go down as one of the stupidest, dumbest, stinkiest trades in history, because you're giving somebody an MVP caliber quarterback who's 26 years old. That's the risk in trading Carson Wentz. If you don't believe in Carson Wentz, if you don't think he can stay healthy, then you take a shot and you trade him. But if you do believe in him, you keep him. Me, personally, I believe in Carson Wentz. I believe he can get past these injuries. I believe he will. I believe the Eagles are going to dedicate this offseason heavy on the offense. I think they're going to revamp that line. I think they're going to give him weapons. And he's going to get a full offseason to rest, to have OTAs, to have spring practices, to have all those things he missed that affect timing, that affect rhythm, that affect all these things. He's going to have it. Not to mention, he gets the knee brace off next year. Okay, I believe the injury-prone label is unfair on Carson Wentz. I believe it's unfair because it's too early. Now, if he goes into next year, and let's say something happens, and he misses 8 games and he's hurt again, it's fair. But to me, the rib injury the rookie year, he could have played if it was a regular season game. If it was a regular season game, he could have played through it. But he didn't. It was preseason. So I don't really count that. He played all 16 games. Then last year, he tears an ACL. Well, we often know that when you come back from an ACL injury, you tend to get other injuries. You tend not to be the same for one full whole year. So that is nothing abnormal. Now, if he is hurt next year, then it's fair to put that label on him. Am I concerned about him injury? Yeah, I would say I'm concerned. I wouldn't call him injury prone, but I'm concerned with his durability. I definitely am. When I remember, me and my brother were watching the scouting combine, and we were talking and texting each other, and I remember they interviewed Carson Wentz. And I remember just hearing him and just looking at him and watching him. And I hadn't seen him play before. I knew who he was, but I never really watched him. I texted my brother. I said, whoever gets this guy is going to win multiple Super Bowls. That was my text. I had no idea it would be the Eagles. So I believe this in this kid. I believe in him. I love Carson Wentz. I make no qualms about it. I love Carson Wentz. But he has to stay healthy. And I'm worried about that going forward. But when I weigh the risks of Carson Wentz keeping him and banking on him staying healthy and returning to his 2017 self, or trading him and assuming he'll never get that back, I think it's a bigger risk to trade him that he'll never get it back. I think more than not, he's going to get it back. He's going to take everything he's learned through watching Nick Foles, and he's going to be better. He's going to be a better quarterback. And you know what? He's going to be the North Dakota assassin. And that's why I want Carson Wentz. I am sticking with Carson Wentz. And that doesn't mean I don't like Nick Foles. People think you can't like Nick and Carson both. I love them both for 2 different reasons. Okay? I want certain qualities of Nick to rub off on Carson. They have to. I hope that they do. But when I have to build a team and I'm going forward, Nick has just turned 30. Carson has just turned 26. Doesn't seem like a lot of years, except for when you're 32, when you're 33, and you get injured a little bit more, you get banged up a little more. Just because Drew Brees is 40 or whatever, and Brady is 42, doesn't mean that everybody else is going to stay healthy that long. I think that if Nick Foles was a starting quarterback at 30, you may get 3-4 years out of him, and then I would be concerned. Then I would be worried. But if Carson can stay healthy, I'm getting 10 years out of him, and I would rather do that. So this is not an easy topic. It was something I avoided because I wanted to support Nick and give Nick all the respect and all the credit and all the leeway to go out and make things happen. But when I look at this and I have to choose between Nick Foles and Carson Wentz, I choose Carson Wentz. And that's where I start on this whole topic. I know we're going to go back and forth at this. I know there's people who don't agree with me. That's fine. I respect your opinion. But Carson Wentz, the North Dakota assassin, is my quarterback going forward. And you know what? The Eagles agree with me. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. And don't be a dingbat.